Well, hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Unplugged, final home and away game in the can, and probably a better performance in many respects than each of the four victories that preceded it. I mean, obviously the Melbourne last quarter was special, but the game prior to that had been average, and then obviously the three that followed it were a bit dour, and it kind of summed up what a lot of our season had looked like, where we would play very well against very good teams and maybe lose by 2 goals, and then play fairly poorly against average sides and win by about 2 goals. It was sort of a trend that seemed to roll through the year, but impressive performance. Probably a game we, in many respects, should have won. And it's a little bit annoying if that doesn't fall the way that you want it to. Obviously, you get 10 points up in the last quarter. Just a couple of mistakes, leaving players alone. Obviously, a couple of umpiring decisions didn't do us any favours either. But they had a lot to play for, the Giants, and it was a good experience for our guys against, I guess, that level of opposition, a side that had owned us a bit in recent times. Obviously, the Darcy Wilson factor was of significant positivity out of that, given the struggles he's had over the course of the year. For him to play the best game of his career to launch into next season is promising. We'll dissect that in a minute with all of the usual stuff, but we'll also do a bit of a season in review where we'll set the scene completely out of context. Well, not necessarily out of context, but with no context provided. More to the point, we'll give a one-word answer for every player on the list. Obviously, there have been some list changes, which we'll rattle through as well. The player movements in and out already beginning. And that's a focus of a lot of our listener questions. But Nick, as I welcome you in, it was a fairly enjoyable game on Sunday. Given halfway through the first quarter, it looked like we were going to lose by 15 goals. We then probably should have won.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, didn't we? That it could be. It was one of those danger games where, the Giants are playing for a top 4. They're a really talented side. I know they were missing a few guys, but excuse me. But there was the possibility that they just rolled over us, and it did look like that early. It felt a bit like that. Maybe we were out of legs and just didn't have it in us. We weren't playing for anything. They certainly were, but for us to fight back and then put on the show that we did for the next 2.5, 3 quarters, essentially, was really, really positive. I think it gives us a really good springboard for an off season and a preseason, and really, I think is kind of the baseline performance for us moving forward. This is what we have to expect in terms of competitiveness, in terms of the way that we play, in terms of the way that we move the ball, in terms of the way that we hit the man in the contest, hit the scoreboard, all those sorts of things. It really shows what these guys can do when they are switched on. And so, I think I said to you guys in one of our chat groups, or maybe it was one of the other groups, but there was a lot about the kind of late 2003 season that I felt kind of fit where we're at the moment. There's a bunch of kids coming through. They're showing promise. Got to put it all together, but there's plenty to be positive about. There's plenty to look forward to next year. And I really do think that, based on a number of factors, including you getting guys back and hopefully some key players healthy, fit, raring to go, and another step forward in terms of these kids' development, that, we could be one of those teams that takes a big step forward in 2026 and, potentially not just competing for a final spot, but there is a springboard there to take a big jump and be one of those. There's always a team generally that comes out from outside of the 8 and then is competing for a top 4 spot most years. And I think that if it's a big if, but if things go our way over the summer and early next year, that we could be one of those teams that has the potential to make a big jump next year based off, a bunch of those factors and a bunch of the performances that we've seen.
Yeah, H, it's an extremely even competition. Like even the gap between the best teams in the comp and not so much the worst teams in the comp, because you could argue that, say, West Coast had dropped away a little bit, but Richmond were better than expected. North were competitive in a lot of games, and Essendon ripped apart by injuries. And at the other end of the table, Brisbane were at times vulnerable. Collingwood have dropped away. It's not like it's, say, the us of 09 or Geelong 7-8, Collingwood 10-11. So, the jumps don't have to be astronomical. I think the gaps are small enough that, little bits of improvement can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the weekend. The Giants are tearing into a final series. They've probably been just about most informed team in the last month, and we've pushed them right to the end on the weekend, and that's as good a performance as what we said we would like to see. We were basically saying last week, look, we've played and won 4 ugly matches that we looked horrible, but somehow they just fall over the line. And we go, look, we're playing a good team. We'll come out and we'll play good football. We'll actually look reasonable. So there's an upside there to seemingly play against these good teams at this time of year. So yeah, I mean, it would have been maybe nice to have had those other 4 games maybe a little bit earlier on, and then had a few better teams to finish the year off, and just to get a really good idea of where we're sitting and that sort of thing. Because yeah, it's a tough one to sort of go, okay, are we really the team that fell over the line those 4 games, or are we the one that turned up there on the weekend and just gave it everything? Are we ready to move into next year, and just a few changes, a couple of players will slide into positions, and are they going to make the difference and just give us that little bit extra and make us a different team again? But yeah, it's definitely positive signs. That's the first thing you got to look at. We've got players that popped up that maybe haven't done a lot this year, and I mean, look at Darcy Wilson. We weren't going into the weekend expecting 5 goals and 20-something touches, and he's put his hand up and going, hey, I'm ready to go for next year. I'm wanting this spot in the team. So it's definitely a good, I guess, look forward to next year, and hopefully it's a sign of, we're moving forward and finishing off the year, like as Nick was saying, that 2003 end of season, we came home with a bit of a wet sail, and it bolted into a 10-win start for next year, and it's not expecting to do that again, but yeah, hopefully we'll get a nice little start and be up there in the 8 in the first half of the year.
I think what kind of speaks volumes is how other coaches treat us. And I think we've seen that, we are able to be competitive against teams that are above us on the ladder, good teams, the quality players, good squads that play good footy. I think we tend to play our best football against those guys when, not that it's a shootout, but just when it's 2 teams playing football against each other. And I think what we kind of saw, despite not winning any of those games, the Hawthorn, Collingwood, Sydney, etc., that we were playing good footy. We just didn't get over the line a couple of them, but we played well enough to have done so, at least in some of them. But then when it came to playing teams below us on the ladder, where it did feel like, we should be a much better team, but those teams and those coaches made an effort to pull us back to their level. And it's something that we've done as a footy club to other teams, over the course of our journey. It's been part of our football club strategy for 100 years, is to bring good teams down to our level. And for other teams to be doing that to us, I think hold us in good stead. And I think, it's frustrating, it's annoying, it's hard to watch, all those sorts of things, but it's a little bit of a sign of respect, in that these teams think that they can beat us, and they can if they don't allow us to play our game. And I think that's where we can get better, is that we need to get better at dictating play against those bad teams, and making, the skill and the talent difference, and the game plan and the coaching, and making putting those things together against bad teams, rather than only having it work the way that it should work when you're allowed to do that. I think we need to get better at forcing ourselves to put that on other teams, rather than allowing them to dictate how we play and how we have to get past them. I think we can be a bit more forceful in how we dictate to those lower teams, because it did feel that, when we came up against those, for want of a better term, cellar dwellers, that they pulled us into the cellar, and that's really hard to watch. But it is a bit, in the cold light of day, the day after, and all these sorts of things, it is a bit of a sign of respect that that clubs felt the need to do that to us, because we could potentially get off the chain if we played our footy. And that's what we have to do. That's our next step.
And I guess even if you look at the way we handled close finishes, depending on the level of the opposition, so we seem to have the now sort of experience to hold off Essendon, North Melbourne and Richmond when it was close. But I guess when the game was on the line against sides that were either around our level or slightly above, like obviously we couldn't close the Fremantle game out when we had control in the West. The Sydney game, they're about our level. The Carlton game, we couldn't quite grab that on the Friday night. So there were a few of those where it was there, but we just couldn't, it's probably getting that level of belief against those sorts of sides to grab those ones when they're on the line. I mean, there's only little moments. Obviously, the Sydney game, we could have got it. Fremantle probably, and what Fremantle did to us in the last quarter, they've done 7 or 8 times since. But in saying that, obviously, you want to be able to resist that. That would have been on reflection a very, very good win had we have hung on and pinched that. But
it also tended to be a similar, we might talk about it when we look at the list, but it also tended to be similar type of players that did it to us as well. Like that Collingwood game, it was Jamie Elliott that kind of stood up in the second half. Obviously Pendlebury and whatever as well, but Jamie Elliott hitting the scoreboard in the second half to kind of pull away from us. Toby Green did it again on the weekend. Those kind of small forwards that can push up the ground, but run back hard and hit the scoreboard. We really missed Jimmy Webster a lot this season for that particular role. Liam Stocker, I think, has kind of been forced into that role. I don't think it's his best role. And I think he's a valuable player, but that small defender, that's, small stopper role is not his best role. And it's an area that we'll need to improve over the off-season, I think.
We'll tie a rubber band around the Giants game because obviously there's a bit to go through in terms of the list. We'll talk on Jimmy Webster, obviously deserves some comments a bit later on as well. But in terms of the votes, I really wanted to give Darcy Wilson 4. I settled on 3 only because there were a few other players to fit into the mix. So starting from the bottom, I gave 1 vote to Windhager, probably our best inside mid for the game. Wasn't super, but played all right. Jack Steele, again, worked hard, 11 tackles, 183 of those for the season. Nass, not at his absolute clinical best, missed a few shots at goal, but was still very creative. That delivery to set up Wilson's goal for his 4th in the last quarter was extraordinary. Thought Marshall started poorly, but then fought back really well. Max Hall kind of summed up his year, had a very good afternoon. Jack Sinclair probably could have got more than 2. He played an exceptional game. And then 3 to Darcy Wilson. It feels like a 23 possession, 5 goal game. I should have given him 4 or 5, but settled on that. H, how did you split your 10?
I actually ended up going a 3 to Wilson and then 7 other players. So couldn't split the rest of them, to be honest. It was one of those games where you we had one standout, and I reckon almost the team performance sort of game. When you look back through the players, there's players that are probably still unlucky to miss out on getting any. Gave on the Cooper Sharman, just presented. He led us with contested marks. 3 of them were inside 50, so it was a good target on the day. And as we've been saying all along, once he's back to being able to play, say, the 3rd tall or something like that in the future, he's going to become very dangerous for us again. It's just been that number 1 target this year has been a real tough job on him. So he's done well. Hopefully he can be rewarded next year with a couple of lesser defenders and take a couple of games by the throat and kick quite a few goals for us. 1 to Steele, just worked, tackled, did all the stuff that he normally does, and that was as he's done towards the end of this year. He's really built, and hopefully can have a big off season and come back in, I guess, a form that he's shown previously. Marshall worked hard in the ruck, working through the middle, clearances, just did as much as he could in there to get us out, and just keep moving us forward. Few air swings when he tried to kick the ball off the ground, as he's done a fair bit towards the end of this season. But it's just anything to get it going forward at times. Wilkie down back, worked hard all day. Cadman was kept pretty quiet, and just being able to, they sort of moved round and shared the load a lot of the time during the game. So under his leadership down back there, that it worked for most of the day and worked quite well. On the NAS, it wasn't as he's shown recently. It wasn't a world-beating game, but he did what he does week in, week out, and hopefully does every week next year, and for many years after. Wonder Windy, again, works hard out in there, and just is great support, and he's hopefully going to be one of the leaders going into next season. Sinclair moved the ball around as he does, gave us the run out of the back when we were looking for it. Just kept going all day, and again, one of those players that's going to be interesting to see what role he gets next year, whether he moves into the back a bit more, where he was sort of thing before moving in the middle. But there seems to be a few contenders now for that centre position, so he might find himself a bit more of that running back next year. So probably see what happens there. And as I said, 3 to Wilson, five goals, something completely out of the blue, that one, and hopefully he can pop up and do similar a few times in years to come.
He was outstanding. Nick, your 10?
Pretty similar to both of you. I gave 1 vote to Sharman. I thought he presented really well. I thought he was actually giving Sam Taylor a bit of a bath for most of 3 quarters. I thought he was the most. It's probably not something that we've said about Cooper Sharman before, but I thought he was the most hardworking kind of key forward on the ground for most of the game, and I thought that his effort was excellent. I gave 1 to Marshall. He just keeps doing what he does. He wasn't best on ground, clearly. It wasn't your vintage Rowan Marshall performance, but he just keeps running, keeps doing what he does. You're getting his hands on the ball around the ground, making life difficult for opposition midfields and opposition ruckmen. And just, consistently one of our best players. Jack Steele, I thought, has really grown back into himself over the last 8 weeks. And that was another really good performance. I think led the game in tackles, was top 2, top 3, whatever it was, but led us in tackles. And has just really stepped up in terms of his on-field leadership, I think, in the second half of this season. Max Hall, a vote. He's just a footballer, right? Like he's smart with the ball. He doesn't have to get 30 touches. He can have 15 or 16 touches and be super creative and have 8 score involvements with what he's able to do around the ground, around the forward line. But he's also able to go in the middle and accumulate as well and put body on. And he's just a footballer. It's, I think, one of the best compliments you can give someone now. We hear so much about players making it because they're athletes or they've got the best aerobic capacity or whatever. But he's got a bit of everything. He's tough. He's hard. He's got a bit of speed. He's got some skill. And he's just got really good footy IQ. And I think he's just a footballer. A vote for Naz. I think you said it, Darren. Just wasn't his greatest performance, but super creative. Was always involved in chains of possession, chains of play that led to opportunities to score, and was just able to create things almost out of nowhere. And some of those possessions, that was kind of goal square to goal square, defense to attack in 3 or 4 kicks, generally had Naz involved at some level. And he's just such an important player. I gave 2 to Sinclair. I thought if not for Darcy Wilson, Jack Sinclair would have been our best player. He's just turned into a bit of a Rolls Royce for us. He's a luxury to have. And he's just so fun to watch because he's smooth. He's a little bit like Nick Del Santo with more urgency. His legs tend to move quicker. He's got a bit of that kind of cartoonish. The legs circle around, and he's just always on the move. But he's super clean with the ball. He's smart. He makes things happen. He's creative. He brings other people into the game. He makes other players better. He makes us a better team. I thought he was very, very good, potentially underratedly good. And then Darcy Wilson was the difference, really. If not for Toby Green, would have been the absolute clear standout best on ground for both teams. He was just phenomenal and a bit of a breakout game for him. And again, just kind of the benchmark of what this kid can do. We've talked about his ability to hit the scoreboard. We know his running abilities. We know his running patterns and his work ethic and his work rate and all those sorts of things. But he hasn't really been able to put it together this season for whatever reason. And that was the complete package performance from a running wingman, who I think is going to become more and more important as, Brad Hill's into the twilight years of his career. Mason Wood's taken a step back, regressed a little bit in terms of his form. He's had to push forward and impact in other ways, but, he's certainly not the impact wingman that we've seen over the past few years. And I think that there is a spot opening up for someone like Darcy Wilson to really take that role and run with it. And he showed what he can do when given that role, and when he's fit and ready to go.
H, you've got the leaderboard, and I think unsurprisingly, we have a runaway leader.
Yeah, I think it was pretty well over almost 2 months ago. The way it is, we've had a leader who's actually outpolled the next two together. So it's it's a big win. We've had 27 players have polled this year, which is a good sign. It gives a good spread of votes. It means there's players putting in, and you got to be happy with that return when a few of these players are poking up and getting a vote here and there. So that's a good thing. And it's not a bunch of ones and that sort of stuff at the bottom either. We've actually got the lowest poll on the vote poll was I had 5 players on 2 votes, so it was just a single vote snuck in here sort of thing to anyone. So that's a good thing. But we'll just round the top 10. Sneaking into the top 10, Cooper Sharman on 23. Phil will be very happy with that. He's got in. Max Hall, 27. So great year there.
Love that.
I would not be surprised at all to see him get into that top 10 in the club, even higher, possibly depending on how it goes with the voting system they have. It really rewards consistency. So he's a real shout to be right up there this year, I think. Jack Higgins on 30, up to Marcus Windhager on 46, Jack Steele 48, Jack McRae, who polled quite a few early on, and then just picked up a few consistently through the rest of the year, was on 57. Rowan Marshall on 64, if I remember correctly. Where he runner-up last year, I possibly think. I have to have a look at that. So into the top 3, you got... that jumps in front of my screen. The top 3, you got Jack Sinclair on 67, so 3 ahead of Marshall there. Cal Wilkie on 68, and as I was saying, more than those two combined, Naz is a mile out in front on 137 votes. So... It's a big difference on last year. There was actually Marshall who won it last year. So last year was Marshall, Sinclair, Steele. This year, Naz, Wilkie, Sinclair. So we've got 6 different players in the top 3 in the last 2 years. So it's a bit of a different leaderboard. Whether it's a preview to what we're going to see in just over a month's time or not. We'll see how it goes, but you'd probably be a pretty safe bet to be getting on Naz for the club best and fairest too, I'd assume.
I reckon that's probably a fair shout, and I think probably I think he'll lead us on Brownlow night, and I think that he's a sneaky for actually winning the thing based on his second half of the season. I thought he was okay in the first half of the season. We spoke about him. He was accumulating the ball. He was doing some really creative things, but he was potentially a little bit silly with the ball in hand, sometimes making some poor decisions, trying to bite off a little bit more than he can chew. But he turned into a genuine match winner week after week, consistent match winner week after week in the second half of the season. And I think that will be recognised, especially as he went more into the middle of the ground, after about round 12, kind of 14-ish, and spent more time in the middle, pushing forward, hitting the scoreboard. I think that he's a real shout for a top 5 on Brownlow night, if not giving the podium a crack.
Yeah, he'll go top 5 this year, and there he'll be, you'd think, amongst the top 2 or 3 favourites doing it next year if he plays all year in the middle. And if we turn, say, winning 9 games into 12 or 13 or something, then that would obviously be an enormous boost to his chances as well. We'll look at probably the Shannon Noel can be more of a broader season thing because obviously they can't lift between this week and next week. It's more about the off season. So we might do that as part of the review. But were we going to do a Jason Blake out of the game, Nick, or were we going to do the same thing?
Yeah. Let's do both. Let's do a Jason Blake for the game and then we can each give an overall one.
Mine out of the game was a bloke you mentioned in Cooper Sharman. He's been consistently over the last couple of months putting in those types of performances, 8 or 9 marks and multiple goals. And some of the marks he takes, he just judges it so well in the air and floats across the front of the pack. And without, a big target really for the whole season, occasionally Max Heath, but no one of note apart from, he and Mitch Owens playing the same role effectively. He's done a very good job. So, he gets one for the final round efforts. Nick, where does yours land?
I gave it to Hammer. I thought the backline stood up remarkably well against a dangerous offensive unit. I know they were missing Jesse Hogan, but Hammer lined up on Aaron Cadman a fair bit, and I think he was goalless. I think he kicked a point for the game. Didn't get his hands on the ball a whole lot, and I thought it was just a mature performance. We know that he can have a few brain fades. A little bit like Dougal Howard when he's got the ball in his hands and can do some silly things with the ball. But I thought that it was just a real mature performance from Anthony Caminiti, who's grown into that role as a key defender. I thought outside of I always call him Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. Mike Wazowski, who kicked 3 for GWS. So I think we performed as a defensive unit really well. And Hammer was a massive part of that, so deserves credit.
I think I texted another Saints group at quarter time saying, who the fuck is Ron Gronkowski for the Giants? Because I didn't even know who that was. But he ended up obviously having an influence. But H, who got yours?
Well, I thought he played for New Patriots. So.
That's right.
Yeah. I gave it to a guy that, it was potentially his last appearance, and he kind of played like he was playing for a spot, and he's done it a few times this year where we've been looking for a little bit of something, and he sort of just lifted us a bit and gave us some really good run and ball movement and that. But yeah, Jonesy, I was quite impressed with what he gave us on the weekend, and it's a sort of effort that they look and might say, there could be a spot there. There might be a spot there, depending on what happens with other players and that sort of thing. And he put his hand up to say, look, I can still do it. It's the sort of performance that you go, well, it would need to be more often. That's the sort of thing that would need to be there. But as a depth player, he would definitely be good. You'd probably find him down in Sandringham, well, not even Sandringham, or in our reserves team next year, more often than not, but would definitely be a good depth if we needed it. And it's the game itself he played, I was quite happy with, and he's one of those few that I was just teetering on the edge of looking at a potential vote, but just probably wasn't quite enough to have just slid him in. So, but probably did as much as he needed to on the day, and probably deserved a little bit more plaudit for it. But yeah, it's not a name that would have really come up in anyone's report or anything. But yeah, I was quite happy with it.
Just a shame he almost kicked what would have probably been the match-winning goal in the last quarter, or possibly the match-winning goal would have put us in front. I think with just under 4 minutes to go, so we might have been able to hang on and muscle our way to victory from there. Now, we might do the year-end recap. We do have, obviously, a few listener questions to get to later. I wanted to comment also on Jimmy Webster and a couple of those list changes, but we might do a one-word answer on all of these awards, with the exception of maybe best game, worst game, and favourite moment, which we'll touch on. We will elaborate a tiny bit further on that. Our question is the 2025 MVP. I could probably answer on everyone's behalf. I assume we're just going to go Nas, and Nas around the table for that one.
Yep.
Probably not an overly complicated start, but we'll expand those awards out now and go for the season. H, if you wanted to kick it off first, your 2025 Jason Blake Award for the year collectively.
Yeah, Nick gave it to him for the game, but for the season, I've got to go Caminiti. He's thrust into a position that probably wasn't expecting to be there for a full year. He's just been decimated down the back with Howard missing, and it just a short back line, and just was given a job and said, well, you're a defender now. And he took it on. He's learning a lot along the way, it seems. And you go back from what he was probably when he was thrown into the back line in that first game against Brisbane last year, and then look where he is now, and it's a very different player. He's learnt off Wilkie a lot. He's just, been able to change himself into a proper defender, and it's hopefully just going to get better, because it's sort of thing that you go, well, I don't see us wasting that and then setting him back up forward at any time. We've probably got the forwards covered if we get everyone back. We get these, decoding will fill a gap up forward, Marshall will fill a gap up forward, that sort of thing, give us another tall target. That'll be probably not required. So it seems like now he's a defender, and it's great to see that he is, learning that trade, and hopefully just leads to bigger and better things down there, and they gets a little bit more support and build on it even more.
Nick, your season, Jason Blake?
Yeah, it's a tough one because there's a few that could be in there. I wanted to give it to Jack McRae. I thought he started the season like a house on fire, and was really kind of showing the rest of the league why we made it a priority to bring him into our footy club. Contested beast, accumulator, clearance, all the things that we needed, to help Jack Steele and those other guys in the middle. And then got injured in wherever it was, round 11, 12, middle of the year, missed a month of footy. And it's like everyone forgot about him, but he was just so consistent. He did everything that was asked of him every time, every week, regardless of what the role was, whether it was inside, outside, run with, accumulator, whatever it was, out on the wing, in and under. He just did everything, and has just become a super valuable part of that squad, both from an on-field leadership perspective, but also he's just a talented footballer, right? Like he gets how to play the game at a senior level and be consistent week in, week out. And like I said, he kind of, in that first month, he was recruit of the year in just about everyone's ranking, standings, whatever you want to call it. But then everyone kind of just stopped talking about him. And I think that he just continued to do what he does without any fanfare, without any spotlight, and just super consistent, super, like a metronome. Just go and get the job done. Don't make noise about it, but has done exactly what we wanted him to do and shown exactly why we wanted to bring him here.
Most disposals ever in a debut season by a St Kilda player, which is a full credit to what he's been able to do. And the injury was a little bit untimely, but certainly had an influence a little bit later on. I gave mine to another Jack. I know there's a few of them, but Jack Higgins, who obviously started the year unbelievably well. Halfway through the season, he would have been a lock for the All-Australian squad. He then lost form for 6 weeks or so, but then came back pretty well and finished the season quite strongly. It was his most complete year. 46 goals amongst small forwards is quite rare. They're not going to kick 75 like a key forward might. So, best season of his career, and should finish top 10 in the BNF as he did in ours as well. My Shannon Knoll award goes to a player that probably was nominated maybe 15 times between us over the course of the year, I would say. Even when he wasn't playing, he got nominated a couple of times, and that's Liam Henry. Now, I don't know the extent of the the full extent of, say, the injury setback he had in the preseason and what influence that had on him. But when he went back and played for Sandy, he looked like he was 60 or 70% fit, or 60 to 70% interested. I know that sounds harsh. Then obviously when he came up into the seniors, at times he looked dangerous, but he's a player that last year we only had him for probably half a season last year, but he was a genuine difference maker in games. And if we think about all of the upside that could come next year with King and Philippou and Tom de Koning and Lear and, hopefully Wilson tapping back into his best form and whatever else comes, Liam Henry could certainly play a role in that for mine. So he gets my Shannon Knoll. Nick, where did you land?
The list management and footy department elements of our club have got their work cut out for them over the next 6 months. From a recruitment strategy, whatever you want to call it, over the next, let's say 6 weeks, through the finals and into free agency and trade period. But then I think also managing, from a footy department, coaching team, group, I guess, managing the personalities and egos, maybe too strong a word, but the personalities in the locker room, in the squad, that are seeing some of this big coin being spent. And I genuinely think that a lot of those senior guys that we've heard about are okay with it. I genuinely think that they see that, to bring talent into the club, you're going to have to pay something, whether it's draft picks, other assets, or coin. And I think that's okay. That's just the nature of professional sport now. But there may be some, under the surface type feelings. Jealousy again might be too strong, but those sorts of egos that, we've been here for years and we've performed in and out, and we've, all these things, and this bloke rocks up and he's on, 1.5 mil on day one. There might be a little bit of that. I'd like to think maybe not as much as is being reported, but it would be completely natural if there was that. And so I think the coaching group has a bit of work to do to kind of bring everyone together, the team building type stuff, and managing those personalities and expectations moving forward. Because I think as a club, when you look at what we've been able to do from a list management perspective over the last couple of years, I think that competing for finals and making finals next year has to be the goal. And so to do that, you need everyone on the same page, contributing consistently, regularly, with their best footy. And if there's dissatisfaction with those things, then that's going to be hard to do.
H, where did you settle?
Well, we've already had a good start with the NAS promotion last week. But let's get up. We've picked up 17,000 members from that last week in the last 7 days. We have no excuse now with what we've got also coming to the team, what we've got there already, what we've managed to keep, what we've managed to basically the way we finished the season off. We should be aiming for 75 next year off that springboard that we've just had. Let's all sign up. Let's get excited. Let's get to the games. Let's all break records next year. There's a lot to get excited about, and we should be there to see it. And there's no reason why we shouldn't start getting 50% bigger crowds than what we were this year minimum. Move from averaging 20 to averaging 30 possibly. So there's no reason we can't do that. So let's all get on board. Let's all sign up. Let's get excited for what's ahead, because the things that we're hearing at the moment, we're starting to sound like somewhere that these players want to be. So let's join them, and let's hope it's a great ride.
Holding the floor, H, your best game of the year. I know a lot of people will look at the way one particular match finished, but do you have a standout game of the season?
It's probably one that was unexpected maybe at the time, but you talk about the Melbourne game, but the Freo game where we just held them into submission and gave them nothing on that night. They were just stunned and had no idea what actually hit them. It was, I think almost all our fans were stunned as to what was happening too. It was like, yeah, it's a smallish crowd, as I was just saying. We didn't have great crowds at times, but it was just a bit of a, wow, where's this come from? That sort of thing. There was a little bit of excitement, but it was more, this is just a crazy game, and it's that sort of pressure that if we could put that in, instead of just having that one game, and have 75 to 80% of that pressure every week, we'd win a lot more games than what we'll lose. And it's just a performance you should look back on and go, that's a finals team now. They are a finals team this year, and we were able to absolutely do that to them and just make them look like a team that didn't even belong in the league at that point. They made West Coast look like a good team, to be honest. So, yeah, it was a great performance on that night. That it would have been nice to have had a bit more of a springboard off.
We won the clearance is something like 54-20 in that game. It was ridiculous. Nick, your standout game?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of, when you kind of think about it, that Melbourne game sticks in your mind for obvious reasons. But round 2, coming off a thumping in Adelaide in round 1, to take on the Cats, who have, again, ended up being a really good team, top 4. We led the Cats for 123 minutes from start to finish, outside of the first siren. There was not 1 second of the game that they led us, and we got up to 40 points plus lead in the third quarter, I think it was. I know we only won by a goal or two in the end, but that was outside of 10 or 15 minutes in the last quarter, was about as complete a performance against a consistent, regular top 4 team as you will ever see. And I think, we showed a lot of inconsistency across the course of the year. Some really good performances, some really poor performances, but that is the type of performance that we need to show as our baseline. That's got to be, our benchmark, and we need to be bringing that sort of effort and performance week in, week out if we want to be a genuine contender for finals and top 4 and double chances and all those sorts of things, whether it's next year or the year after. That's the direction we've got to go in, and that's the type of footy we have to play most weeks if we want to be amongst that conversation. And I thought it just kind of showed where our level is when we put everything together. That's the type of thing that we can do.
Yeah, outside of the euphoria of the Melbourne game, that was certainly right up there. I'll probably nominate a couple of weeks after that. We beat Port Adelaide away. Not that they ended up having a particularly great year. It was a good win in that we held them off. We started really well. Some really good highlights through that last quarter, but away wins against Port Adelaide are obviously incredibly rare for us. And to get that result, hopefully, means that we can break that hoodoo and go forward against them with some positivity now. So I did enjoy that one a lot. Worst game of the year. There's probably a few contenders. I'll probably just mention, look, it's a stat that doesn't mean much in reality, but obviously being the only team to lose to West Coast was frustrating. I actually think they're not defending ourselves because it was a bad loss, but they're not the worst bottom side I've ever seen. They just happen to have won the fewest amount of games. There have been some sides that were losing by 15 goals every week and things like that, but look, it was a poor performance. We could see it coming and we just weren't mature enough to deal with it. You knew they would have sensed that they were a chance, and then we started slowly, and it just couldn't get out of our own way. So, yeah, that was a low point of the season. Nick, your worst?
Yeah, it's right up there. They, like you said, I think we all kind of saw it coming. They had a shocker of a week as well. I think that was the week that Adam Selwood passed as well, and I think they were always going to get up for that game one way or another. And I think that they would have beaten quite a few teams that week. I'm not sure that it was just us. I think they would have beaten a number of teams that weekend. It's hard to split them, so I'm just going to go the 2 Bulldogs games. They're essentially carbon copies of each other. There's just something about that Bulldogs team that we just, for whatever reason, it's the power and the pace in the middle, the way that they spread and run. and their skill level by foot, but there's just something about them that we cannot run with, and it's so frustrating. And for all those who hopefully listened to this before the Suns Bombers game, I hope the Suns get up and make sure that the Dogs can't be there in a couple of weeks, because I hate them. I just hate them.
Yeah, no, it sounds well, shouldn't sound harsh because it's absolutely the truth. No one could dispute it, but they're undeniable pretenders, the Bulldogs. Yeah, they've well and truly Bulldogs. Locked that one away. I guess the definition of downhill skiing. But H, your low points of the season?
Yeah, basically a game that's probably more because the meaning of it and that sort of thing, and who it was against. But the game is Carlton. We want to win a spud game. We really do. We need to. It's a night that it's there for the club. It's there for the fans, the supporters that have been there forever, and anyone that knew him and that sort of thing. And we just need a win on his game. And yeah, it would have been a great night to have knocked off Carlton on that night, and we're there and thereabouts pretty much all night, and just couldn't drag them back enough towards us. But yeah, let's go next year. Let's get one of these games, and it's like, yeah, it's been in the past. It's been milestone games and those sort of games, and we've struggled with. So any of these sort of theme games or whatever we have, let's hopefully we can show up and actually get a result on the night.
Favourite moment? It's probably, you narrow it down to a couple. I'm not going to go again to the obvious of a particular game and a particular mark or a particular kick, but I'll probably go to just the euphoria around the signature more than anything. Just the feeling amongst us as supporter base, knowing that, you know, we're supposed to be the quiet side that, as we say, sits in the corner and doesn't rock the boat. And, you know, we haven't drafted a superstar in quite a while, and now South Australia are just going to come across and take him back home, and, you know, that'll be all so fleeting. But similar to Harley Reid with West Coast, I think it's good for the game, and I think we felt that. I think most people felt it was good for the game, and I just think that positivity that it gave us collectively as a supporter base to know that, hey, this is a superstar, a once-in-a-generation talent, and at least for a little while longer, he's sticking around for us to build. So that stands out to me. H, anything that you wanted to nominate?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious, again, is Melbourne, and for us who stuck around, we'll get a few people out there that didn't.
Charlie.
I wasn't naming anyone, but yes. Yes, probably it's very hard to beat. It's very hard to find anything above it. I mean, Geelong win when we're given absolutely pretty much no chance to win that game, but there was a few of us going, no, it's Geelong and Marvel. We've got them. Just having a little bit of confidence, and getting the start we did, and then holding on, that was great. But yeah, I've got to go with the Melbourne game. That's something we won't see maybe ever again. That sort of thing. It's something lucky to have witnessed, and hopefully, if we ever do see it again, we're on the right side of it again, because I would hate to be on the other side of it. That's the sort of comeback that we saw some of the Melbourne fans, and the way they were sitting right in front of the Melbourne coach's box, and yes, it was certainly a fair bit being thrown towards the box, and yeah, we don't want to be in that situation.
Nick, have you got one outside, or even adding to that, or outside of that?
Yeah,
group?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the Melbourne games, I guess, a little bit in context of it, but watching Nick Riewoldt go from superstar player to superstar media person to genuine fan of our footy club again. I think we all know that this guy's loved this footy club for 25 years, but seeing him love the footy club as a fan, watching the game and watching him have fun doing it, was just really nice to see. And it sort of, I think we saw it more and more as the year progressed. And obviously the Melbourne game, the footage of him, the special comments in the box, hugging Joel Selwood and all those sorts of things, to the story of, his boy being called to the principal's office to be told that Naz had resigned, and all those sorts of things. Just these little stories and the trajectory that this has gone on over the course of the year has just been really nice to watch, to see, heartwarming as someone who, will love that bloke like he's a member of my own family forever, even having only met him a couple of times in real life. To see him, I guess, reacting and acting and feeling the same way that we do about this joint was just, I don't know, it just made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. The longer the year progressed, and to see him, he's got Ross Lyons back, he's got Jack Steele's back, he's got the players back, he's got Cal Wilkie's back, and all those sorts of things. It's just been lovely.
No, that was brilliant. That was, and just something. I mean, it's been brewing around for a little while. But before we launch into the player review, I did notice on agenda setters this evening, at our time of speaking, that it's looking highly likely that not this year's draft, but next year's draft, there'll be no academy or father-son players available in the first round. So, well. If you fight the fight hard enough, you can actually get that change. So. Those who told St Kilda to sit down and shut up, they didn't, and they've made a change for the better, potentially, once you get the Cats on board and a few other clubs. I think even Brisbane somehow agreed with it. I don't know why.
There was some word of that.
They did. What we're going to do here is, as I said, no context required. We're just going to, I'll rattle through this like a jumper presentation, and we're just going to give a one-word answer to sum up, I guess, the season or thoughts on a particular player. So I'll kick it off with one word and then hand it around to you next, H. But number one, Jack Higgins. I'm going reliable.
Dangerous.
Snags.
Holding the floor with you, Nick. Number two, Marcus Windhager.
Tough.
In and under one word.
Signature for me. Number three, Zach Jones, H.
Depth.
VFL captain.
Nick? Mine would be thanks. Lance Collard, unsure. Nick?
Talent.
Inconsistent.
Sticking with you, H. Number five, Toby Travalia.
More time.
Nick?
Untapped.
Mine's persist. Number six, Jack McRae. Consistent. Nick?
Consistent.
Expected.
Sticking with you, H. Number seven, Nasaya.
Home.
Nick?
Stud.
Said it a few times. Generational. Number eight, Nick. Bradley Hill.
Tiring.
H.
Not necessarily on field, but influential.
I'm a little bit stuck on Bradley. Frustrating, because I know that sounds harsh, but yeah. Now, start with you, H. Jack Steele.
Same old.
Machine.
Warhorse. I think that's one word. Number 10, Mitch Owens, midfield. Nick?
Ball drop.
H.
potential excitement.
Sticking with you, number 11, Hunter Clark.
Pre-season.
Nick?
Underrated.
Hopefully it's one word, but deja vu. Nick, you can keep it going with number 12. What do we say here? Max King.
Oh, boy. Important.
H?
From what I'm hearing, bulked.
I'm going to say difference. Number 13, Ryan Burns. Shaky.
Maybe.
Nick?
Depth.
Sticking with you, 14, Liam Stocker.
Position.
Solid.
Hamill. Agree the word I'd use. H, number 15, Paddy Dow.
Probably fits in the Clark thing, pre-season.
Nick?
Unlucky.
Stealing a second word, good karma. Dan Butler, squeezed. Nick?
Yeah, that's a good one. Aging.
Fingernails.
H, number 17, Isaac Keeler.
After the weekend, exciting.
Jim.
Upside. Sticking with you, number 18, Jack Carroll.
Depth. Again.
H.
Forgotten almost.
Depth. Agreed. Number 19, Rowan Marshall. Favourite. H.
Twin Peak.
Forward.
Like it. Sticking with you, Nick. Number 20, Dougal Howard.
Structure.
H.
Now, teacher.
I'm going to hyphenate this. Underappreciated. H, number 21, Zane Cordy.
Team player. He's been good.
Value.
Thanks. Number 22, Darcy Wilson. That's it. As in, that's what happens, I guess, if he unwraps his gift. Not to expand on that too much. Nick?
Pure.
Because after Wigan, ascending.
Sticking with you, number 23, Liam Henry.
Hopefully.
Big.
Rocket.
Lift. With you, Nick, number 24, Angus Hasty.
I'm going to steal a second word. Well, a few words now, but like him.
H.
Recovered.
Persist. 25, Mateus Filippo Barometer. H.
Fix. Get him right.
Health.
Sticking with you, number 26, the Viking.
Exciting.
H.
To steal something from another show, bang.
Jet. I was going to say Rising Star, but if you believe the rumours, this decision might have already been made here, H, but number 27, Ari Schoenmakers.
Uncertain.
Gone.
Defend. 28, James Barrett. Debut.
It's a tough one. Learning.
H.
We call him an old soul.
Number 29, Jimmy Webster.
Missed.
Favorite.
Bravo. Turning our attention to number 30, Nick Alex Dodson.
Potential.
H.
Massive.
Overtake. 31, Harry Boyd Sandful.
Unseen, really.
Turning circle.
Sticking with you, and 32, Mason Wood.
Regression.
H.
Daycare.
Wing. Number 33, didn't see a lot of him, H, but Patrick said.
Yeah. Unknown.
Nick.
VFL.
Continuity. Number 34, Hugo Garcia. Impressive, Nick.
Hard nut.
H.
I was going to say bulldog. not going to be a bulldog. He is a bulldog.
No. Next up for you, number 35, Jack Sinclair.
Consistent.
Nick.
I said it before. Luxury.
Safe. Don't have a 36 or a 37. Nick, 38, Hugh Boxall.
Midfield.
H.
I was going to go with big midfielder.
2 words, good overhead. Don't have a 39, 40, Max Hall. I won't steal your word, Nick, because I think you might say it.
Thanks, mate.
Found one. I know that's 2 words.
I was going to say steal.
Yeah, footballer.
Sticking with you, number 41, recently delisted, Angus McLennan.
Category B.
H.
Had potential.
Trier, same principle. Number 42, H. Max Heath.
Overlapped.
Nick.
Not good enough.
Ceiling. 43, Cooper Sharman. Arrived. Nick.
Settled.
H.
Third defender.
The man who might be captain, H, number 44, Cal Wilkie.
I was about to lean that way, but leader.
Yeah. Captain.
Used this one already, but reliable. Number 45, Nick, Liam O'Connell.
Irish.
H.
Showed a little.
Tough. Number 46, Amon Armstrong. My one word, dunno. Nick?
No idea.
H.
Bald.
Well, there you go. I didn't know that either. H, you can sign it off with the last on the list, Anthony Caminiti.
Swingman.
Defender.
Like that. Underrated. So that is our summary. If you want to have a crack at that via our socials, you may do so and reply. Before we wrap things up, I guess looking at the list changes. So NASA signed Tom De Koning seemingly committing for 8 years. Cal Wilkie, you'd think that's settled. Windhagen, Marshall, Steele up in the air. Marshall and Steele look like they're certain or near on certain to stay. Windhagen is obviously a pretty important one to get right. Liam Ryan's officially requested a trade. I think that's to us, but obviously it hasn't been officially said.
The word is that it would have been Port if Naz had gone to Port. That was the word that I heard, is that if Naz had committed to Port, Liam Ryan would have requested a trade to Port, which is an interesting one. But it has sounded like for the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, those drums have been beating louder and louder that he wants to come here.
Yeah. 3 years at a trigger for a fourth, I think, is what we're hearing. Lee Collier was getting cheered by Saints fans and friendly bantered by Saints players on the weekend. That looks like that will happen.
We have to trade for him.
Jack Silvani's the interesting one. Obviously, he was linked to us for Lee Collier, yes.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have a lot of
obviously
draft
Tom De Koning we don't, and Jack Silvani we wouldn't have to. I believe we'd have to trade for Ryan though.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though obviously at his age, but H, the other one, Jack Silvani. Early in the year he was linked to us a bit, and then it became Collingwood and the Bulldogs. But in the last couple of days, sort of swung back a little bit to us. I know a player manager who's a bit more friendly with us than, say, a Ben Williams is, alluded to that being a possibility. And even Craig McRae, when, he spoke about having the dinner dates for Jack and stuff like that, said that he might be seeing other people. So reading between the lines, whether that's us or the Dogs still, I don't know. But how do you feel about Jack Silvani coming over?
Well, whether the link's still there because of Sauce. That's the question. Is it just someone throwing it out there because he's where he is and that? And I mean, he's a good defender. If he can stay on the park, that's the thing with him. If you can get him on the field, he's got quite a lot of upside. Yeah, he's got quite a lot of upside, and we've seen him been thrown into the ruck by Carlton, so it seems to be just about any position on the field he's happy to take. So
he's a bit of the Jason Blake. He's a bit of a Jason Blake type player.
Well, he's big. Again, like Boxall, he's bigger than he looks. That's one thing about him. So, and it'd probably be a good inclusion to any team at the moment. So, if we can get him and keep him away from other teams, there's definitely an upside there.
Couple of broader listener questions about this sort of topic. So our draft hand at the moment is whatever it is, pick 7 and then 40 in mid-50s or something. In terms of, at XRP Bloke says, what will the Saints have to give up to get Aliir and Ryan, and will Fincher be available to us in the second round? I think Fincher is classified around about the second round. He actually debuted for Sandy a couple of weeks ago and looked pretty sharp.
He was best on ground, I
so
reckon.
He's one that potentially, but our draft hand's not hugely deep. Yeah. we've got the early pick. Not going to give that up necessarily for those players, but yeah, we don't have a lot of capital in the second and third rounds, to be honest. That might have to work on some futures or something like that to make that work. Although there was some talk that we would shuffle picks around with Carlton if they got a compo pick and work something out from there in terms of splitting, or who knows. But they might have to do it that way. And what do we think Liam Ryan's worth? He'd be a second round pick, wouldn't he? At his age?
I mean, he's 20. He's 28, isn't he? He's 28, 29?
29 by next season, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
West Coast...
So that's about,
West
I think, 30-ish.
West Coast want Lance Collard. And I think that, there's some talent there. He's shown some glimpses, but he's certainly been consistent. And there's been times where he's looked disinterested. Not so much this year, but certainly last year. I wonder if there's... I mean, Liam Ryan's kind of in the prime of his career. And if you... Would you go 1 for 1? Would you go Lance Collard for Liam Ryan? I mean, we probably would. Would West Coast? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure that I'd want to pay too much more than that, to be honest.
No. There might be some late pick swaps and that sort of thing as well. But
even that we don't have a lot. But I'd be perfectly fine without Liam Ryan. I think Liam Ryan would make us a better team right now. But is he in our best 23 in 2 and 3 years, 3 and 4 years when we're competing for a premiership? Don't know. Lance Collard might be.
Yeah, and what does it do for Butler or those in that situation? Yeah, maybe. One other one or two other ones before we get ready to wrap things up with a couple of other topics. So there's rumour floated around in the last 24 hours, around Cam Mackenzie. I do wonder whether that's, we're always chasing midfielders. There's been talk around Sam Flanders at the Gold Coast, but do we think the Mackenzie one has substance, or is that he was in our academy, we missed out on him, they changed the rules, we'll have a crack at getting him, and people have sort of put 2 and 2 together? Or do you think there's a bit more to it than that?
I would be disappointed if we hadn't asked the question. I mean, he's a decent midfielder sitting there, not really getting much of a go at the moment. So, potentially someone that should have been ours. It's not strange that it has been a link there. So, yeah, it's would be one you'd be happy to get if, again, didn't cost us too much to do so. You don't want to be giving up too much to be able to get that done, because we'd be basically giving up someone, I guess, at a similar point in their career or something like that to do it. So, yeah, it's a case of, I mean, what's Hawthorn missing with that? They would be chasing.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you be willing to pay Marcus Windhager to bring in Cam Mackenzie? Because ultimately that's probably what we're talking about.
Probably not. No. Keep Windy there.
No, probably not. No.
I think you're right, H, in that I think we would ask the question. But I think it would be difficult for us to get him. Like, I don't think we have...
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we have the assets to get him here. I do think there may be a little bit of smoke and mirrors in that. I think there's potential that we're having conversations with James Worpel, who is a free agent at the end of this season.
Heard that a bit, yeah.
And I think that might be a more realistic midfield target for right now than Cam Mackenzie.
I'd really like to get Sam Flanders, to be honest, from the Gold Coast. He should have been All-Australian last year. I just thought, prolific ball winner. I'd love to get him across and should be able to pick him off potentially. A couple of topics before we wrap things up. The girls, great win to start the season, as we touched on. Thumped by Melbourne. This week will probably tell us plenty against the Eagles. I get the feeling last week, as much as it didn't reflect well on us, probably indicates that Melbourne are a benchmark within the competition. They've looked really sharp in the first 2 rounds. So hopefully that was more a case of that than us being whatever a reverse aberration is in that Adelaide game. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that against the Eagles at Moorabbin this week on Saturday, I think it is. And I guess the final point will go around the panel. There's been a few list changes, but the most significant one, clearly Jimmy Webster, 180 games, came from the great St Kilda factory that is Tasmania over the years. Been a very reliable defender. Talking to a couple of people, we kind of all agreed that he probably would have been a very good finals player if we had had a few more of those over his tenure. He actually leaves Rhys Stanley at Geelong as the only player left in the AFL that played under Scott Watters at St Kilda, strangely enough. But very good career, Jimmy Webster, a very good career, Nick, and deserves our praise.
100%. Very, very good career, underrated career. Someone who's had to evolve his game. You know, came in more as a wingman, running defender, halfback type guy, booming left foot, could break the lines and kick long, be direct, and really turn himself into one of the better small defenders in the competition. A guy who would quite regularly and consistently take on and beat the best small forwards in the competition for a period of time, and still had the ability to kind of push forward and kick long and hit targets and all those sorts of things. Someone who I think has been vastly underrated for the majority of his career. And I don't think that shouldn't be the case inside the footy club. I don't think it is inside Moorabbin, inside the club itself, but amongst the supporter base, I think it's potentially still true that he's probably not valued as much as he should have been over the journey. But he's been a really, really important contributor, really important personality, character, and leader inside that club room. And I think you said it, Darren. I think it was your one word for Jimmy Webster was bravo, I think.
Yep.
I mean, he deserves every piece of praise and credit that comes his way and more, because there won't be enough.
I think I forgot H. Cripps as well. Is the only other one at the West Coast Eagles that played under Scotty Watters.
Sort of got. You look at Sunday's game and go, he could have been the guy that shut down Green in those last few minutes. He could have kept him away from all that. He could have been the difference at that point, and quite often was. I reckon he had a great record against the likes of Cameron. I reckon there was maybe 3 games in a row where Cameron didn't end up getting almost a goal till like the last minute of the game.
Yeah. Michael Walters was another one that he beat all the time.
Did quite well on Green over a few games. He just, was able to sit on these players and just gave him no space. That was probably the main thing. So, he's a potential to take over the Jason Blake Award though. He not getting a vote. So he's actually almost a candidate to take up the naming of that award now when you look at it. So we'll meet and see what we think with that going into next season. But
the Webster Blake. The Webster Blake Award.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
So it's the guy that was very undervalued outside the team, but huge inside. So didn't get the plaudits that a career like he had probably deserved, but we all love him and love what he did for us. Yeah,
and obviously in terms of list changes, we expect a couple more. There might be a couple more farewells to some good servants. Maybe we'll see. Probably a couple more changes to come on top of the 4 already. Zane Cordy, as we mentioned, did a very good job, particularly in that first year in 2023, forward and back. But so the girls in action this week. We'll be checking in periodically around the drafts. Obviously, Nick's going to have a new addition in his family, so we'll weave it around that as well. And obviously look to those reviews around those full list changes when they do come, and of course the BNF just after the grand final. But thanks for tuning in. If you want to jump on our socials and give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, and give us a rating for your players with your one-word answer. Yeah.
We've got a new celebrity interview coming. It's taken a few weeks to get it done, but it is coming very soon, either later this week or next week. great chat with Dan Sultan, multiple ARIA award winner.
Yeah, you would have seen him at game 150 at the G against the Dons. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks for tuning in, and go Saints.